Hi, it's Penny here, and this is going to be my book haul for the second quarter of 2025. Now, when I decided to do like quarterly book hauls, I've been giving myself a budget of $10 a week for book buying. So I thought that will probably be like kind of a good number of books for a book haul, not too many, not too few. And like Q1, there was quite a lot, but that's when I sold my house, had some extra money, rewarded myself. Q2, I thought would be more sensible, but I do somehow have 22 books. However, part of that is because I went to a book fair, a secondhand book fair. So we'll blame it on that. So I've ended up with 22 books to share with you today. And I think at the end of the video, I'll do a few stats about these books. But also, I've been putting them on the shelf behind me. And I tried to order them like from most questionable decision to least questionable decision, like purchase decision. So let's go through them. Wait, I had to go get some supplementary materials. So I bought these two books from the Alex series by Tessa Duda. This is a New Zealand author, and I remember reading these books when I was in primary school, and they are actually set in Auckland. They're about this girl who I think is some kind of champion swimmer. I do think now, oh no, I'm still missing a book. I think. Why do these books not list this? Other books in the series inside them. I think because they're trying to pretend they're standalones. I've just discovered this book is signed by the author. Who knew? Not me. Okay, so it's a 4-book series, actually called the Alex Archer series. This is the first book, although it looks like it has been published under multiple names. And I've also just noticed that the special signed copy has a butterfly shape cut out of it, so not that much of a special copy. I don't really like these editions. So that's the first book in the series. Then I bought the second book in the series, Alex in Winter. I already had one of these copies of it, but as I said, I don't really like these editions, so these ones are beautiful, so I got these. But I have a suspicion that this first book was never published in these editions, so that's going to be ruined, since I also bought the third book in these same nice hardcover editions. I would love to have the whole series in these editions, even though I haven't read these since primary school. I want to do a reread of them at some point, but I don't own the fourth book. I did already own a copy of the third book in a completely different edition style. So I guess I'm probably going to pass these ones on to someone else. Maybe I'll just stick them in a little free library, and then this will be my collection of Alex books. But I really need to find the fourth book at some point, and I think I've never seen it, so we'll see. Anyway, I put these as most questionable because I already owned both these books, and I only bought them for the editions, although I think they were only like $1 or $2 each, so too bad. I'm not that sad about it. Oh, the next book needs supplementary materials as well. Okay, so next I got Blood Trillium by Julian May. This is the sequel to Black Trillium, which I already owned, so now these will go nicely together like a matching set. But to be honest, I had recently bought, in fact, I think in Q1, a paperback copy of Blood Trillium. So this is another one where I just bought it for like a matching edition, which I don't really need. And this is another series. This series I think I last read in my 20s, which is not as long ago as primary school, but is still a long time ago. But I would like to reread it. I also have my doubts that I will ever get the whole series in these hardcover editions, so really questionable decision making. But again, I'll probably put this in a little free library and someone else can benefit from my terrible decision making. I actually think this next book might have been a worse decision than those ones. Because next I have Skybowl by Melanie Rawn. This is the third book in the Dragonstar trilogy, and I think that you have to read the Dragon Prince trilogy, which it mentions up here, or that at least it's advised that you read that trilogy before you read this trilogy, and this is book 3. I do really love Melanie Rawn. I am forever waiting for her Saga of the Exiles trilogy to be finished, even though maybe it will never happen because it's been 20 years now. I also kind of remember that in my 20s, though, I tried the first book of the Dragon Prince trilogy and I didn't like it, but I did want to try it. But it doesn't make sense to buy the third book in the sequel trilogy when I haven't read any books from the first trilogy. Probably not. But also, I just thought these books aren't at the library, so if I do ever want to read them, I'm going to have to buy them secondhand, so I may as well pick them up when I see them. Is that a good decision? Probably not, but I don't care. And again, I don't think this one was that much. $2. That's reasonable. This next one is a questionable decision because it's not even in a language that I speak, or at least I do speak it very, very badly. So I bought Bis zum Morgengrauen, which is Twilight in German, by Stephanie Meyer. So when I read the Twilight books, when they first came out, I was slightly older than kind of the target demographic, but I flew through them. I love them. And also, I did do German in high school. So I have like some minimal German skills. And since buying this, I've started doing German on Duolingo with the goal that I will try and read this book at some point. I might actually try at some point just to like read a chapter every now and then and like look up all the words that I don't know until like to improve my German skills through reading this. Like when I open up a page, I see so many words that I know and lots that I can guess because German is so close to English, but also lots that I don't know. But it is a story that I know. So questionable decision making to buy a book that's not in the language you speak. Okay, my memory card just got full because I wasn't paying attention, but questionable decision making. But again, I'm not that mad about it. Maybe I'm mad about this one. So I bought The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon in these like pretty nice new editions where she's actually like revised the whole story. Now, I already had on my TBR shelf that I haven't read yet, The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Oh, it's the same book, but this is like the prettier new version with the new words. And I already kind of had a look at the first little bit of the first chapter and looked at how she's changed her writing, and it's really interesting. And I kind of want to do a project where I go through and almost read both of these at the same time and like look at the differences. I don't have time for that though. And also, like, that sounds interesting to me, but I actually don't know if I'm going to love this book because I haven't loved the things I've read by Samantha Shannon in the past, The Priory of the Orange Tree and A Day of Fallen Night. And when I did try a chapter of this, I didn't necessarily love it, but the extra intrigue of seeing how she's changed it could be the thing that makes this interesting to me. So, like, did I need this? No. But again, $2? Oh, I think it was $3.50. What a splurge. So questionable, but it's going to be a fun project if I can ever find time to do it. Okay, then I bought Forever by Maggie Stiefvater. Now this is the third book in the series, I'm pretty sure, and I think I spent $5 on it. I don't have the rest of the series or the other books in the series, and I wouldn't even say that I loved this series, even though I do love a lot of Maggie Stiefvater's writing. This is one of her earlier works. It's kind of like more typical YA fantasy, and I like it when she leans into her less typical, like exaggerated writing style. But the thing that really pushed me over the edge and made me buy this is that the text is red. Maybe I should have put this on my like most questionable part of the list. But like I do like this series. I think it's really interesting. It's about these like, oh, I didn't really tell you what the last couple were about, but whatever. This one is about like werewolves, except they change depending on the temperature. Like when it's really cold, they turn into werewolves, and when it's warmer, they turn into humans. And there's this weird interaction between this one werewolf guy and this young girl who had kind of an encounter with a werewolf when she was younger. Anyway, this is probably another one of these YA supernatural romances that I kind of liked for unknown reasons, since I don't tend to like YA books or romances, but I liked it enough that I decided I'd get sucked in by the red font. Then this one, The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This is a New Zealand author. I think it's more of like a literary historical fiction. I can see here there's actually a date, 1866. I don't tend to like historical fiction, but this is like a New Zealand author. It's won lots of awards and it was free. I see this book actually in secondhand things all the time. And because it's a New Zealand author and it's so like well loved, even though it doesn't necessarily seem like my type, sometimes New Zealand historical fiction can do it for me because I feel a little bit more connected to it. And since it was free, I decided now is the time. At least I won't have to pay for it. Then next I got Son of a Witch by Gregory Maguire. So this is the sequel to Wicked. And I have Wicked on my shelf somewhere and I just tried to look for it. And either I'm blind or it's hiding in the shelf that I write down under behind my armchair. But why would I have put it there? I think because I decided that my main love for this series is nostalgia, and I kind of didn't like the editions I had. I'm trying to remember, did I just have the first book or did I also already have the second book? I don't know. But really, these are the editions I want. If I see the series in these editions, I'm going to buy it. Because when I loved this series in my 20s, these are the editions I read, and so it like connects with that nostalgia element. So this, if you don't know, is like a Wizard of Oz retelling from the Wicked Witch of the West perspective. The sequel, though, actually follows primarily her son, or is he her son? There's some mystery about it. Also, as I always like to tell people, the books are so different in tone from like the movie or the show. They're really dark, and this is also really weird, but I kind of like it. There's bits I don't like and bits I do like. So I have mixed feelings about it, but for nostalgia, I bought this copy. Then I bought these two books from the Chronicles of the Chassuli. This is book 1. Shape Changes, and this is book 7, Flight of the Raven. I've read this series once again in my 20s and I want to reread it. There are these other beautiful covers that I kind of want, but I keep seeing these ones, and so I've kind of fallen into collecting the series in these old retro covers. I do already have book 6 and book 4, and then I also have book 3 in a cover that isn't quite the same but is almost the same. That one was a mistake, really. So now I have the spines really show the one that doesn't belong, but I have 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, and it's an 8-book series. So I guess I'm more than halfway. We'll see if I ever complete this. Oh, and this is like a generational fantasy story where there's kind of like 2 families at war, and they have like different shape-shifting abilities, I think, and kind of at each generation they almost pair up. This is my memory of it. I haven't read it for a long time, but at each generation they almost like pair up romantically, but it always kind of falls apart for different reasons until kind of like near the later books, I think. Anyway, one day I'll read those, but I don't think I can get them from the library. So really I have to collect the set somehow secondhand to be able to read them. Also, you can just see now I'm stacking these up in preparation for trying to do the thumbnail, so expect to see a stack forming here. Okay, then next I have The Pony Party, which is part of the Luckiest Kids in the World series by Loni M. Setnick, except that that's not true. I saw this book at the secondhand shop and I was like, that's very similar to those Lemony Snicket, A Series of Unfortunate Events books. Is it related? And when I Googled it, there was so much misinformation and so many people like, does this book even exist? And like lots of questions about it. And I thought, okay, I'll buy it. I bought it and then I figured out what it really is. This is a trick book. It's actually Lemony Snicket, the unauthorized autobiography. So like a book in the world, I think, of the Series of Unfortunate Event books, pretending to be like an autobiography of Lemony Snicket, who is kind of a character in that world. Let's not get into the fact that Daniel Handler, who actually wrote those books, is probably an asshole. Let's put that aside. I really love the Series of Unfortunate Events books, so I'm hoping that this could be a fun little read. It looks kind of weird, but I also kind of like that it's a trick. Okay, then we have a couple of my newer book purchases, both by Oliver Blake. Firstly, I bought January's by Oliver Blake. I have already read this. I got it as an audiobook, I think, from the library. But then I discovered that the physical book has pictures. A lot of Oliver Blake books have pictures. I think it actually only has 4. So this is a short story anthology where there is basically a story for each month, with the stories being divided by each season, and for each season there is a picture. So I kind of bought this because I wanted the pictures. But also, when I listened to this on audiobook, I thought to myself, I would prefer to read this with my eyes, and I kind of want to read it like one story a month. Because I think when I read this, I tried to read like one story a day and it just became a little bit too much. But I feel like one story a month will work better. And I'm going to start it in spring, where the book starts. Spring in New Zealand is September. So I'm going to start my reread of this book in September. And I'm looking forward to it because even though short story anthologies don't often work for me, ones that are all by the same author tend to work better. And I do really like Olivia Blake, and I thought some of these short stories were really good, and I think I will enjoy them more with my eyes. But I guess we'll see in spring. Then I also got One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. So this is like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but like the characters are like these mafia-esque magic families living in New York, I think. I might have made that up. Also, this has pictures. I think this is where it is in the questionable decisions list because I shouldn't be buying books just because they have pictures. Although that's not the only reason. So there's one couple in this. There's multiple couples, well, kind of two couples in this, but there is one that I really shipped. I enjoyed all their scenes when I read this. So even though I don't know if I can quite justify saying that this is a favorite, I still kind of wanted to own it so I could reread it. So I got it. And this is one of the ones that I got with a voucher. Did I get this one with a voucher as well? Maybe? I've kind of forgotten. I think maybe. Then I also got The Soprano Sorceress by Ellie Morissette Jr. I really like, and I think I've read almost all of the books in the Saga of Recluse series, and I have actually read this whole series before, assuming that it's still 5 books. 5 books? Oh, research time. Yes, so this is actually called The Spell Song Cycle, and it is 5 books long. We're following this woman who's like an opera singer, and then it's some kind of portal fantasy where somehow she ends up going to this magical world, and like her singing and her music is what powers the magic. And like a lot of Ellie Morissette Jr.'s fantasy books, it's very practical. She kind of becomes the ruler of this kingdom. Now, not only is she having to do this like singing-based magic that's really exhausting, she's also kind of having to deal with ruling this kingdom and working out all the economics of it and like the logistics and supply and all that kind of stuff. So it's a bit strange, but when I read it, I did like it. I sometimes find like they're really long books, so they're a bit of a struggle to get through, but I like a lot of the ideas. And I actually think I owned this series previously. I also owned a lot of the Saga of Recluse, and I got rid of them, which was a bad decision. And when I saw this, I thought, oh yeah, I would kind of like to reread this. So at least it's the first book in the series, right? I didn't just randomly get the 3rd book or something, which is something I could have done, might have done if I'd seen it. Anyway, I'll try and fit in a reread of this. Honestly, not this year, maybe next year. The stack is getting very high, but there's not many more books. So as well, I got this book, which is a copy of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. We're on the books now where I don't feel like there were questionable decisions at all. This is a really old edition. Oh yeah, that's right. I couldn't even figure out from when, because it's so old. They don't follow any of those kind of conventions. The introduction was written in 1963, so I guess kind of that old. And it has pictures. Oh no, maybe this was a questionable decision if I'm buying it for the pictures, but it has pictures as well. But also it's just like a really nice kind of classic style little leather-bound book. So I decided it was pretty. I mean, I don't know if you'd call that picture pretty. And this probably isn't pretty either, but like, I just thought I would like to own Frankenstein, and this is a cute little copy of it. So not a bad decision at all. Okay, then I also bought this Pegasus in Flight by Anne McCaffrey. I have been seeing this at my local, like one of the local secondhand bookshops, and no one was buying it. It is the Something's book. Oh, do I have to do research again? I think so. Okay, so this is the 2nd book in the Talents series, but this is also set in the same world as these Anne McCaffrey books over here. So I decided for that reason, like I think there's one of those that I haven't read. So I'm trying to collect that whole series to reread the ones I have read and then read the one that I haven't read. But then why not read the other books in the same universe? But this is a trilogy, so I need to try and find the 1st book and the 3rd book. So we'll see how I go with doing that. But I thought, I don't see these around this much. I also don't think my library has it, so I thought I better get it while it was there. Then I also got Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. So this is the 5th book in the First Law world. So there's an original trilogy, and then I think this is the 2nd standalone. oh no, it comes after the heroes. So this is the third standalone. This one is the kind of more Western style book in the series, which is this kind of a grimdark series following lots of questionable characters in the middle of this. I guess I would say normally the series is about like a bigger conflict between different parts of the Union or different parts of the like a alternate Europe. But this one, they kind of go off in a different direction. It wasn't my favorite of the series, so that does call into question why I bought it. But I am kind of collecting the series, and I have the first and third books of the series in the similar edition. However, these ones are smaller. I actually had the chance to get the second book in this trilogy in this kind of edition, but I decided to hold out to try and get the ones that match this properly for that trilogy. But then for the standalones, I thought, sure, maybe I'll try and get these bigger ones, because I also have the first book from the Age of Madness in like a different style, but the same kind of size. So I'm going to try and get the original trilogy in these ones, and then the standalones and the later trilogy in this size. I guess we'll see how that works out. Then I got this book. This is probably maybe the weirdest book on the list, but I'm kind of excited about it. I got this from local book fair, and it is an illustrated book of bad arguments. Learn the lost art of making sense. So basically this just goes through and has little explanations of kind of like all the different logical fallacies, and then a little cartoon that goes with each one. And it has like a little summary at the beginning of all the different kinds of logical fallacies. And I just thought it was really cool. And I have done like a university paper before where I learnt about all of these, but honestly, I could do with a refresher. And in these days of false information everywhere, being aware of logical fallacies is pretty useful. I would recommend. And so like a fun way of refreshing myself sounded perfect. Okay, this is another one that I bought with a voucher, so free, which means both of those Oliver Blake ones must have been with that voucher as well, because I got 3 books with the voucher. So this is Infinity Gate by Emma Carey. I've been trying to read all of Emma Carey's stuff lately because I've discovered that I love most of his stuff. This one, I've read the first chapter and I'm super hyped to get to this. It's a duology, and it's kind of like a multiverse type situation. I think the series is called The Pandemonium, and it's some kind of like multi-dimensional empire. But it also starts out just kind of like the end of Earth and like the climate emergency really ramping up. It says on the front, the war for the multiverse has begun. I'm super excited to read this. And also, I couldn't get this from the library or anything, so very happy to have my own copy. Then I think this is the only book I bought new and paid for in Q2. So we have The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is another one where I wanted to read it and I can't get it from the library, so I decided to buy it. I'm hoping, like this is a 5-star prediction, so I'm hoping to really love it. It is something about a moon god who has been captured, and then some people are freeing them. But I also believe it's told in a really strange way where it's like someone telling a story about a play about this moon god or something weird like that. Also, I think some of it is in second person, which I tend to love. And also, lots of people say this is really great. So I'm hoping to love it. Very pleased with like the one new book that I actually paid for this quarter. Then the last book on the shelf is Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. This one, do you know, I was kind of hoping to myself that at some point we would get different covers for this series, because even though this is kind of cool, it's just too orange for my preference. And also the second book in the series, not the best. So I was hoping we would get new covers. It doesn't seem like it though. So I decided when I saw this on the shelf at a secondhand shop that I should buy it because I really love this series. There are maybe some things later in the series that were a little bit disappointing, things that I wish she'd done more with, but it's still really cool, all focused around like dream magic. If you don't know, this is a spin-off from the Raven Cycle, so it is best you read that series first, but this is a really cool continuation. It doesn't have the same kind of friend group dynamic that the original series has, but it has some really cool, weird dream magic, and I loved the weirdness of this. So this is one of my favorites, and I wanted to own it, and now I do. Hopefully one day I'll find the rest of the series as well. Okay, before I try and hold all these up for a thumbnail and probably die in the process because it's going to be a dangerous activity, let me tell you some of the stats about all these books. So I bought 22 books in Q2, and 82% of those were secondhand books. 8 were from this book fair that I went to kind of every year in my old town, but also in my new town. They do this particular like charity book fair. I will say I don't think my new town's one is quite as good as my old town, but that's reasonable because there's a lot less people in my new town. But I still got 8 books, pretty happy about it. Then I bought 10 of these books from secondhand shops, and then 4 of them were new, but as I mentioned, 3 of them I got with vouchers, so they were free. Because I do this thing where I scan all my groceries and like earn vouchers, and I use those vouchers to buy books. Perfect. I could use the vouchers to buy other things, but I use them to buy books. So then in total, I spent $88.83. The new book, this one, cost me $32.83. And the secondhand books cost me $56, which comes to an average of $5.60 per book. I do kind of wish that secondhand books were still a little bit cheaper. Like I remember I used to almost always be able to get them for like a couple of dollars, but now it seems like the average is more like $5 to $10. But I did manage to get a few of these really cheap, which brought the average down. And then if I just take the total I spent across all the books that I bought, the average is $4.04. Of course, that's brought down by the free books, but whatever, $4 per book. That's not bad, especially when some of them are actually new, and some of them, like this one, is practically new. Like it's in as new condition. So then in terms of my budget, I worked out that my budget for Q2 was $130 because I'm counting it as 13 weeks, I guess, which means that I'm $41.17 under budget, which I will now take that money and spend it on some more books. I am actually probably going to be saving up for some Cursed Princess Club graphic novels. So I think I'm going to take that money and put it aside to buy those whenever there's a particular set that I'm waiting for that's coming out a bit later in the year. So I think I'm going to save that money for that. So let's try a thumbnail. I could just hold up like half the books. It's still quite a lot, but a proper book haul thumbnail needs to look excessive. Honestly, there's no way I can hold this up. It is entirely delusional to think I could ever do it. Also, I'm trying to do it sitting down so that I'll still be in frame, but I should change the framing really because this is impossible. Uh-oh, we're already in trouble. Oh man, my camera decided to stop filming just as I was halfway through holding those up, but I think we maybe got a thumbnail. It was definitely somewhat dangerous. Anyway, the summary is that I'm very happy with all the books that I got for my book buying budget, and I did manage to come under budget, so that's extra superb. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments, or let me know how your book buying is going lately. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.